Okay, hey guys. I made a video about the different types of animals with spines. These are called vertebrates. I'm gonna make another video, I think, about invertebrates. So the different classes of invertebrates, but this one will be focusing on vertebrates. So before we just want to talk about in general the 5 different groups of vertebrates. So the first one is mammals, and then reptiles, and then the third one is amphibians. The fourth is fish, and the fifth is birds. So those are the ones I'll be talking about in this video. And then there are 2 words that I kind of want to go over. So endothermic and ectothermic. Endothermic, I'll be saying this. Endothermic means it's an animal that can control its body heat. Ectothermic is kind of the opposite. It's an animal that can't control its body heat. Okay, so let's jump right into mammals. So we'll start with mammals. There are over 6,000 species of mammals. So many different types of mammals, and the different orders of mammals are primates, rodents, cetaceans, and pinnipeds. So primates, I think that's how you pronounce it. But primates, the first one is, you can think of it like humans and apes and like monkeys, those guys. And then rodents, you can imagine like a rat or a mouse or beavers or hamsters. And then a cetacean, this is my favorite one. These are like dolphins, whales, and porpoises. And then pinnipeds, these are seals, sea lions, and walruses. And yeah, and mammals have many different characteristics. They are endothermic. So like I said, they can control their body heat. They breathe air. The females produce milk. They have fur or hair, and I'll talk about the different types of fur or hair later. They give birth to live young. Not all do, though. And they have a neocortex. A neocortex is kind of a new different part of a brain that mammals have, of like a higher intelligence. So yeah, that's a neocortex. Yeah. So like I said, there are many different types of mammals, and there's lots of diversity. So some mammals swim, some fly like bats, some live in the desert, and some live in like the Amazon rainforest. So yeah, there's a lot of diversity in mammals. And then the different types of mammal hair or fur is wool. So you can kind of think of like a sheep. And then there's quills. So you can kind of think of like a porcupine. And then there's I don't know how to pronounce it, but I think it's vibrissae. And these are hairs for like detecting. Like an animal uses these hairs for like detecting their surroundings or like detecting prey or predators. So yeah, it can be used. Hair can be used on mammals for keeping warm, camouflage, or detecting predators. So like a polar bear, it's like white fur. It's used for like keeping warm, but also to like blend in with the snow. Yeah. So not all mammals give birth to live young. These are called monotremes. So these are the platypus and the echidna, and they lay eggs. So that's it for mammals. And the next group is reptiles. I think this might be my favorite group of vertebrates, actually. So there are over 10,000 species of reptiles. So this is a big jump. And there are 4 orders of reptiles. So the first 3 are kind of the most well-known. These are squamata. These are lizards and snakes. The second group is crocodilia, which it can almost sound like crocodile. So you can imagine it like that. It's crocodiles and alligators. And then testudines. These are like turtles and tortoises. They're kind of in the same group. And then there's sphenodontia, and I don't know how to pronounce it, but it might be that. And the fourth group is kind of not as well known, like I wrote here. There are tuataras. So yeah, and then reptiles also have certain characteristics. So they usually are ectothermic, so they cannot control their body heat. They're scaled. They're vertebrates. They're air-breathing. They're four-legged, but there are some exceptions, like you can think of like the snake does not have any legs, and they lay eggs. And yeah, tuatars are not as well known. So unlike mammals, no reptile can fly today. So you can think of a mammal, a flying mammal like a bat, but no reptile can fly today. And there are many differences between the four orders of reptiles. Even though they're in the same group, they're still pretty different. Lizards and snakes are in the same group, Squamata, but lizards are very different than snakes. Lizards have four legs and snakes don't have any legs. Snakes actually don't have any eyelids, and lizards have like dry, scaly skin. Tortoises and turtles are in the same group. Tortoises are only found on land, while turtles can swim. Tortoises are usually herbivores, like they eat plants, but turtles are usually omnivores, like I wrote here, and like I said, can swim in the water. Alligators and crocodiles are in the same group too, but alligator snouts, I think, wait. I think the difference, there's one way you can tell the difference between an alligator and a crocodile, but I learned it's definitely not the best way to tell because there are like many exceptions. But maybe some way you could do it is alligator snouts are usually wider than a crocodile snout. Yeah, so those are reptiles, and the next group is amphibians. So with these guys, there are over 6,000 species of amphibians. Yeah, and then they're in three orders. So the first one is frogs and toads, so this guy in this picture, and then newts and salamanders, this guy right here at the bottom picture, and then gymnophiona. Again, I'm not sure how to pronounce these names, and I don't know who's coming up with them, but I think that's how you say it. And these are kind of worm-like, and they're caecilians, but I'll talk about them more later. So, Anura is the group with frogs and toads. Then there's Caudata, which are newts and salamanders. Then caecilians are gymnophiona. So caecilians, I think, are, I mean, I've seen a picture of them and they're kind of like worm-like, but they're almost like a cross between a worm and a snake. I don't know. That's kind of how I imagine them. But yeah. And amphibians have some pretty cool characteristics. So they're ectotherms, just like reptiles. They cannot control their body heat. They live on land and water, and I'll talk about this later. And they have this thing called, they have a characteristic called aquatic larvae. And amphibians have very thin skin. So it's pretty important, like, not to touch a frog if you just put like lotion on your hands or like soap on your hands, because when you think about it, if their skin is so thin, it could just seep through their skin, and that's not good for the amphibian or the frog. And so yeah, it's very important to be careful with them. They need moist environments to survive, so like lush rainforests sometimes, and they start off with gills and then develop lungs as they get older. And this is part of their life cycle, which I thought was pretty cool, so I wanted to talk about. So here are the steps of amphibians. So number one is the egg stage. The adult frogs lay their eggs in the water, actually. The larval stage is next. So the larvae, they hatch out of the eggs, and they breathe through gills, and they have a tail. And then the adult stage is next. So this is when the tadpoles like lose their tail, and they kind of develop lungs, which I think is really cool. And they grow four legs, and then they live on land. And then it just circles around. The adult frogs lay their eggs, and it just comes back. Okay, so the next group is fish. So there are, oh, by the way, I really like this picture here. But anyway, there are more than 32 species of fish. Sorry, not 32, 32,000 species of fish. And there are 3 different orders of fish. So the first one is bony fish, jawless fish, and cartilaginous fish. And I'll talk about these more in the next slide, but I'm just going to list off some of their characteristics too. So they are ectothermic. So like reptiles and amphibians, they cannot control their body heat. They are scaled. So you can see that these fish in the picture here, scaled. They have gills. They have fins. They live in the water. They're vertebrates. But actually, not all fish live in the water. I think my favorite type of fish is the mud skipper because it goes on land. So I really like that fish. But now I want to talk about the different types of fish. So the first one is bony fish, then cartilaginous fish, then jawless fish. So there are over 28,000 species of bony fish. So this takes up the majority of the 32,000 species of fish in general. And I wanted to say this, when you think of a fish, when I think of a fish, at least, I don't think of a ray. I think of the fish in this top picture over here. And these are bony fish. And the second type of fish is cartilaginous fish. These are sharks and rays. And I think recently I had no idea that rays were actually fish. I was like, they don't look anything like fish, but they actually are. And sharks and rays have a cool ability called electroreception. I need to learn more about this, and then maybe I can make a video about it. But that's for another video. But they get their name from them being made out of cartilage. The other type, the third type, is called jawless fish. So there are only 2 groups of jawless fish, the hagfish and the lamprey. These, they don't have scales, so they're definitely the exception for one of the characteristics of fish. And they're usually slimy. Hagfish have where they secrete a mucus as like a defense. And some lamprey filter feed, which I'll also make a video about. Okay, so the last group is birds. So there are 10,000 species of birds. And I was going to list the orders of birds, and I searched it up, but there was just so many that I couldn't really do it. But I will say some of their characteristics. So unlike a lot of the other classes of mammals, of vertebrates in general, they have wings, a beak, they have feathers. They do lay eggs. They're endothermic, so like mammals, they can control their body heat. And some don't fly, so you can imagine like ostriches and penguins here. So yeah, and just like mammals, they live in many different ecosystems, many different places, and they actually live in all 7 continents. So some types of birds do not fly. These are called ratites, I think. These are like ostriches and emus and kiwis and cassowaries and the type called rhea, which I'm not so familiar with. When I think of ratites, I don't know how to pronounce it, but I think it's that. I only think of an ostrich. Like when I thought of a flightless bird, I thought of a penguin and an ostrich, and that's it. But there are a lot more of them. And then there are another group of birds called birds of prey. So these are hawks and like falcons and owls and eagles and osprey. I really like these guys. And yeah, so those are birds. And I actually think that that's the end. I think that's all I'll be saying in this video. So I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time. Bye.